sorry, I'll sit here, yeah.
Well, good afternoon. All three of us are models here because all three of us are wearing the CNA Cradle to Cradle Gold certified jeans. And that's
stretchy
also
too, by the way. 20 years to get the last stain. It's biocompatible. Sorry.
So the title of that session is Circularity is in Our Jeans. And I think it would be lovely for Jeff to give us a bit of context how this all came about.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this last night, and I think it was in a discussion that I was having with Joel in New York last year, and we were kind of joking about it. And then when I came home from that evening, I was thinking about it a little bit more, and I thought that, you know, this topic of jeans relates to heritage to me. And for those of you that don't know, CNA is a 179-year-old company that's been owned and operated by the same family for 7 generations. And so it's a type of company where sustainability is measured in generations. And I think when you have that set of values like that, and you match it with extraordinary leadership and a vision that Bill brought to us, along with the engine of the CNA Foundation, people like Katrin and I can really execute quite well and deliver some amazing things.
So it's Cradle to Cradle Gold certified. Can you, and also Bill, please chime in, what does that mean? How to get there?
Well, I think you know, people always ask me, this seems to be very hard, very difficult, and almost impossible. And I think that it isn't easy, it isn't hard. It takes a different type of leadership and influence inside of an organization to really get it done. What it means in practicality is that, and I think, Bill, you mentioned this, that every molecule of every chemical and material in this product has been assessed for material health. It's been designed for its next life. It's been produced with 100% renewable energy. It's been produced with 100% recycled or water or effluent of drinking water quality, and it has 100% social fairness. The bonus of this whole thing, and if you take this shirt, for instance, it will compost in 11 weeks into healthy soil. And you might be asking yourselves whether T-shirts compost. Yes, of course they do. However, these T-shirts don't have any toxins that we would bring back into the soil when they compost. So that's the key difference here.
So it's really a circular product, and it takes those 5 goods, Bill, that you mentioned earlier: good water, good material, good energy, good lives, and good economy. So really a testament.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a bit more into the nuts and bolts. We talked about systems change, and we talked about the methodology. What does it really mean to take well, the T-shirt was a starting point,
yeah.
A rather simple biological cycle product. The jeans was much more complicated. Mm-hmm. Can you just walk us through what were the hard parts, and how did you also go about that with your supply chain to really bring all of those dimensions together?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question. I think that, first of all, the way that a lot of companies work with their supply chains is very transactional, and I think it requires a different way of collaboration, both with the supply chain, but with other leaders and organizations like Fashion for Good and BDC, the CNA Foundation, kind of coming together to solve a very complex problem. I'm sorry. And a T-shirt is a very simple product, right? You might think that it's very simple. However, if you look at this particular T-shirt, or you look at any T-shirt, it's sewn together with both biological and technical nutrients. So the sewing thread that's used to sew this together, not this particular product, but a regular T-shirt, is made of polyester. So getting the polyester out is tricky. How many of you have these inside of your T-shirts that kind of itch you and scratch you every single time you're wearing them? This is made of shell fabric, so 100% organic cotton. And it might sound like a very silly thing, but in order to print on this and print the care instructions, it took a technological breakthrough. I think one thing that I just want to end on is that when you look at jeans also, it's made of a variety of different components. This sewing thread that sews the seam on the edge of it is also made of polyester. And it's made of polyester because this is where you kind of flex and move. But most importantly, it's because when you're sewing these jeans, if you sew it with cotton, the cotton thread tends to break. And so we had to work with the supply chain and with experts all over the place to find an organic cotton thread that would withstand breaking. And we thought that it would be something that would be quite easy once the thread was made and we could produce these jeans at the regular production rates. However, you know, when you try to produce this product at the same speed of a regular product, the organic cotton thread will break. So we'd actually work in the factories and sit in front of the sewing machines and work with the workers and management of the factories to find the right RPMs for the sewing machines so that it wouldn't break. And it sounds very silly, but in our industry, that is a different way of thinking when we think about design. It's almost industrial design, I would say, rather than the behind the computer desktop design.
So real practical work in the field. And Bill, you showed earlier a picture of this cradle-to-cradle jeans toolkit and also the material library.
Right.
How did that come about?
One of the most beautiful parts of the project was that the CNA Foundation sponsored the work of the science and all the testing and the assessments and the relationships with all the manufacturers to say why they should let us know their secrets, because we need to know every molecule. And they'd go, why should we tell you all this, you know? And we would say, well, it's a big customer of yours, and if we make this open source, other people could get access to you. And so finally, they did it. And so we got to look at every single product down to the molecule. It was amazing. Lots of secrecy agreements, because they have trade secrets, but every molecule with the scientists. And the scientists are here, by the way, if you want to meet one of them. So that was really important. And that let us make it open source to everybody. So at Fashion for Good, which we co-founded with CNA Foundation, you can get access to all this information. And it also tells the stories that Jeff is describing, like here's what you encounter with suppliers, and then here's how you solve for it. It's all there. The stories are there. So the idea of getting open source, and this is the new era. This is pre-competition. This is giving a gift to the industry, that if we're all going to be here together, let us all go clean together. Let us get this done now. This is the point. This is the same as what Ellen MacArthur is doing. The amazing thing of saying, let's bring awareness of these ideas to the whole world, and let's do this as quickly as we can. It's quite astonishing to see us scale up, because we've been at this a really long time. So it's really fun to watch it go boom. So people in this room should know, anybody here that has anything to do with textiles, guess what? Welcome to a world of generosity, grace, and abundance, and sharing, because that's what we need right now. Otherwise, we're just going to compete ourselves to death. And remember that the word competition comes from the Latin competare, which means come together, petare, walk. It means to walk forward together. It doesn't mean kill the other. As the Romans pointed out, when the Greeks were killing each other in the Peloponnesian Wars, they woke up one day and said, when the Persians show up, we're all toast, because we're all dead. And then they created the Olympics. So that way, all the men could run around, I guess, and get off the testosterone, throw sharp sticks, lift heavy objects, I don't know, whatever they wanted to do. But nobody died. And then they all got fit together, Now that's an image. Let's all get fit together. Let's show the industries how we can do this, because the circular people are stronger people, and we share things with each other. Yeah, go.
Can I riff on your
Sure.
your story here? So I think that the other thing that's really interesting about open source is that it's not the way that we think at all in any industry that I've ever been in. And I think that we came to a certain point where we said, hey, some other company, other brand is going to take what we've given to the world and probably do it bigger and better than we are we good with that? And I think that our merchants and our sourcing folks and the people that manage the success of our business said, yeah, I mean, this is something that we need to actually give to the world. Otherwise, we'll be one brand doing one thing in a vacuum. And so I think that's kind of a different way of thinking, too, that we also had that discussion several times as well.
Yeah. So open source really as one important component for scaling. Taking a different lens, consumers, how did they react? You had a marketing campaign around wearing the change. You can also see that in the product. Any quantitative statistics how consumers reacted on those products?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question, and probably the question everyone is probably asking themselves. Number one, we sold these products at positive contribution margins, so in the range of margins that we would sell any other product. So we didn't give it away. We actually made money on this product, which is important. A lot of people think that selling a more sustainable product means that you're going to take a hit on margin. I think in our case, we manage it in a way as to not to experience that. When the campaign launched, it was one of the most successful campaigns that we've ever had. So in terms of sell-through rates, after 4 weeks, it was right in the range of sell-through rates we expect for some of our more kind of best-selling type of products. People that bought the T-shirt increased their basket size by 11%. And when we did some consumer research afterwards with GlobeScan, we saw that the main drivers of our reputation as a company were increased by about 28%. And that was even for the folks that didn't actually buy the T-shirt. When we went and asked the people that bought the T-shirt, do you know what you actually bought? Pretty much no one did. So they said, oh, I don't know, it's organic. And I think that when we explained it to them, they thought it was a great thing. However, it kind of illustrates a point about this concept of circularity, which is it's a really difficult thing to communicate to consumers, customers, I would say, not consumers, customers, sorry. We've been talking about this for 2 days, so sorry. It's kind of I think it's going to be the holy grail of communicating circular economy is to get it in the right zone where it resonates with consumers in the right way.
Okay. So
28 euros for blue jeans, organic cotton, all the way to the molecule. That's impressive. You did that from a large group.
I wish I did it single-handedly, but actually I didn't.
So, Bill, you mentioned earlier you are one of the co-founders of Fashion for Good, and when founding Fashion for Good, the jeans and the T-shirt were one of those examples to say and to demonstrate that good fashion along all of those dimensions is already possible today, and also achievable at affordable price points. Another dimension that we're working on with Fashion for Good is kind of the next generation, the evolution and the innovations that cover, alternative raw materials, but also on the end-of-use side, looking at alternative ways to really recycle. This concept of collaborative innovation that we're working on with Fashion for Good, how do you reflect on it now, 2 years in?
Well, what was fun for me about this project is it started with a family where I'd spoken to the family about values, and that values come first, the right and the wrong, and then value comes after. If you start with value and just number, you can get to goals, but if you start with values, the good and the bad, you can work your way to value creation, which we were able to prove. If you look at that and then realize how many people it took working together, then you realize that there are other things to do. So we have not only taken and given examples to people and then given them the information, but we also have set up an incubator for young people, especially, to come out and exercise their dreams in innovation, just like we've just seen. It's so wonderful the energy that comes in around these ideas is so dynamic and worthy of support. And then we've also got a stimulus fund that can help people get over the valley of death with their scaling up. So there's a scaling fund and there's an incubator fund, and it's an open invitation to the industries to come and share their best practice and stimulate the right innovations based on these principles.
And you're working with us from a brand perspective with now almost 15 other brands. What's your reflection on this now, 2 years in?
I think, you know, there's this notion of collaboration, and I think that we always say it. I think we probably heard it several times today, or maybe it was the most spoken word in this room. I think that the notion of collaboration is one thing, but really defining how it should work and what it actually means is another. And I think at least within Fashion for Good, we're sitting next to, you know, several of our competitors. There are also other brands that are competitors in the room, and it creates a space for us to be able to work on the major challenges in our industry without, having a pre-competitive type of environment. And so now we're starting to see collaborations with other brands on really interesting things that we probably would have never been able to do without Fashion for Good. So for me, it's the real spot for pre-competitive collaboration in the textile and apparel industry that exists today.
Well, with that, I think I also want to open this up with an invitation to all of you here in the room here. It's, you know, obviously the core of what we're doing is with fashion brands and now more and more also manufacturers, but realizing what it takes to scale some of those innovations, it requires the chemical players to join in both on raw materials, but also on recycling side. So looking forward to discuss this with many of you here in the room. And with that, a big thank you, I would say, to Bill and to Jeff. And
yeah.